My gosh, episode 9 of Days of My Stepsister. What an incredible episode. I did not know they were going to go in this direction. It's one of those things where I was joking about at the very beginning about how it opens up with, we're strangers, we'll never get together. Light novel characters that are siblings, they always get together. But that's not this story. We're strangers. And I'm like, yeah, you're strangers. I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing. I know in the end this is going to end up Wincest. And it's so great that throughout the series, it never has kind of got into that stuff as a fetish. It's just there. The fact that these two are broken individuals in a house together and feelings start to blossom. And it's been handling all this stuff so incredibly well. And these barriers that they have up that's blocking everything. But again, episode 9, spoilers for anybody that has not watched the episode, things changed. Everything changed. And my own viewpoint on what they're doing completely changed. Yes, I love these stories about Wincest. It's fun. It's great. I like the sister characters. It's always been a fun thing. But to have a show take that and really break it for me, where I suddenly go, you know what? I actually respect what the character's doing here. I see what they're doing. It breaks my heart because there's feelings there, and there's almost a desire to shut those feelings out, but it's doing an incredible job with explaining it to me in a way that it makes perfect sense. I understand what this character's going through. It's such an incredible episode. Overall, I loved it. I love that point where Saki comes in there, says, brother. It shatters everything. And then to have the whole diary thing. But what's better, what's so incredible is the author themselves of the light novel has been apparently doing commentary every single episode for a long time now. Apparently, the reason why they started doing commentary was when they were working with the team for this episode. This is what triggered them to want to start doing commentaries back here before this episode aired. And it's just full of insights, things that I didn't even consider. There's stuff about the diary, the deeper meanings behind the diary. Yes, why Saki said brother. That she actually knew that Yuta had feelings for her at that point and she wanted to shut it down. There's so much in this commentary that I'm like, holy crap, I gotta make a video on this. Thank you to Earthly for pointing this out to me. I'm like, I gotta make a video on this. So if you want to get more details into what happened in episode 9, unfortunately things that seemed like they were, you know, subtly hinted at, but not necessarily stated. Let's just dive into it. Let's start off with the tapes, because yes, at some point you do have Saki is listening to their audio recordings of them going to the beach and stuff like that. They got into it a little bit in the previous episode, and I really did feel two thoughts on that whole situation. There was a side of me that was almost feeling like because Saki is sort of being turned down by Yuta, and that she has feelings for him, that she might be trying to recreate feelings with him by listening to these diaries. And there's almost like almost an obsession that seems like it's coming from that. While listening to the Asamoah family's recorded memories, Saki is fantasizing about herself and her mother joining them. Of course, this never actually happened. Yuta says in the tape, I hope mom can come next time, hinting at Asamoah's parents' relationship having already been strained at the time. While reminiscing about her own family, Saki wonders if she and her mother had become part of the Asamoah family at the time. They might have been able to laugh together, sincerely as siblings. Perhaps they could have formed a mutually healing relationship, or could have done so in the future. She ponders various possibilities, and her thoughts are linked with her feelings as she drinks the hot milk. I think this is how the scene was intended to be interpreted. As for why they're using these tapes in this era, I think Tai Chi is a retro hobby. Yeah, I kind of got that sense too. But no, this is cool. This is so cool because yes, I can see that as well. The idea that what if we became siblings back then? We could have just been siblings. And I think that is definitely a thing the story is doing so well at portraying, as the idea that they are now pretty much adults. They're becoming adults. And so that feeling of relationship, that feeling of attraction, that physical attraction that is there as well. I'm falling in love with Yuta. Not that I am in love with Yuta as a brother. I'm falling in love with him as a man. And that's the difficulty that's had. And so yes, it technically does make sense. If there's so much hurt in Saki's past, growing up with her mother, struggling to make ends meet. She chose not to go to the pool because she's so set in her mind that she doesn't want to be a burden upon other people. The idea of her mother taking a day off to take her to the pool that she loves to go to is just unheard of. No, I don't want to be a burden upon my mother. I can't go there. I'll just make up the excuse that I have to do this. But what if we did go? What if we met Yuta's family? What if we met them before, when I was very young? We could have hurt together. He was hurting because their family. I was hurting because my family. We could have made a bond there as brother and sister. But now, since we're coming together now, it's all about love. I have feelings for him now. Things are different. Whereas things would have been different back then. We could have healed together, and we could have possibly been true siblings. These barriers of physical attraction and everything won't be there. Yuta's realization of his feelings. I found this kind of interesting because there is sort of, a lot of this really does feel like it is the author being afraid of how it can be adapted, rather than really kind of having a feeling about the adaptation itself. Actually, this scene was the one that I worried most about with the anime adaptation. How are they going to depict this? It's a crucial scene where Yuta becomes aware of his feelings, but in the original novel, it's handled in a way that's quite unconventional for visual representation. Usually when a character becomes aware of romantic feelings or undergoes a change of heart, it's depicted through actions or events that are easily understandable to the viewer. However, in this case, Yuta's realization is almost entirely confined to his inner monologue, and it happens quite abruptly. I felt strongly that this was the best way to depict the character's authenticity. But if we were simply visualize the events without monologue, it seems like Yuta is simply infatuated by Saki's swimsuit. Yeah, I didn't get that sense, so that's a good thing. I did not get that sense. I mean, yes, it's a cute swimsuit and everything, but it was a smile. It was all these shots of Saki in all these moments that he's seen her. Specifically, moments where it seems like her guard is down. Suddenly her guard is down. I was aware the lack of visual trigger for the emotional change could be a disadvantage. But for those of you reading this long commentary, you already knew this, right? The finished product was perfect, with no room of misunderstanding. It was explained very carefully, not through narration, but through visual storytelling, how Yuta is attracted to Saki, and what caused him to realize his feelings. This is where the anime's original edition of depicting Yuta and Saki's childhood continues to be effective. In the original novel, just before Yuta becomes aware of his feelings for Saki, he thinks. In other words, he realized his feelings for Saki when he saw a glimpse of her childlike innocence, something that was deeply hidden within her cool and dry exterior. It was something that resonated with him and filled the void within him. He had touched the essence of Ayase Saki's charm. The combination of the build-up of Saki's character, her expression at the pool, her relaxed gesture, the wind, the sound, the background music created a perfect moment. I think the viewers might feel the same way as Yuta, with various memories of Saki and her childhood flashing before their eyes, leading to a heightened emotional response. That's interesting. Again, I think that is sort of an oddity there, that apparently in the anime, it is the whole shots of them as a childhood is original to the anime. And what they're doing there is they're trying to connect the idea of Saki's innocence. The fact that he's seeing this smile and it's Saki's innocence. This is some rare thing that nobody else sees. He's seeing that pure nature of Saki herself. That moment where he suddenly sees those barriers again dropping, I've seen that. And that's what he's falling in love with. That inner self that she's closed off at some point. And again, it's interesting to see that it's something original. Because they didn't really show it in this episode until the very end. But yet at some point he does see that picture of Saki again. Oh, this is her favorite thing. Look at this. And it's her childlike. And that does connect to something later on that we'll get into, which I found very fascinating. When I said that Ayase gave a small smile, it wasn't the dry expression she usually wore at home, or the polite smile that she gave to her father. No, it was a more innocent smile, like the one that she had in the photos of her childhood. I thought to myself, I'm glad I took the chance to get closer to her. Now here's something embarrassing to admit. I have never truly fallen in love with my heroines I actually wrote. Sure, I appreciate their charm and find them cute, but I've never completely captivated by one. In fact, since becoming a professional writer, I can hardly say that I've fallen head over the heels for any character, even outside of my own works. But when I saw this scene, I felt like I was transported back to my teenage year. For a fleeting moment, I felt genuine crush for Saki and startled by my own reaction. I thought to myself, what am I saying? She's a character I created. I can't be acting like such a fanboy. I need to maintain my professional distance. But then I realized something. It's a TV anime, so it's director Ueno's character. I like that he has to make an excuse for liking the character. I can go all in, right? And that's how I ended up becoming full-blown over-the-top fanboy. It's so dorky. I don't know. I'm mixed on this because there is a side of me that's like, I almost want a writer to write what they think that they would like. That way it's a lot more unique. All the stories can be more unique. But I do see a side that some writers want to make a character that will be accepted by the broader audience of otaku. They got to make it an otaku bait, which I do kind of hate. There's sort of it's sort of a mixed response there, because like with Rent a Girlfriend, the reason why I don't like Rent a Girlfriend is mainly because the main character is literally the author geeking out about how much they love the main girl. And it gets tiresome. It really does. It does turn into something where it's just kind of feeding into its own fetish. So I can see both sides of this situation, and I do like the idea of them just creating a character that is outside of their own bounds. That way they have that barrier there. I think it's more of an idea of creating a character that you like, but that you won't get too invested in. I think that's probably the best area there. Okay, now we're gonna start getting to the good stuff. Not quite yet, but we're getting into the good stuff. Yes, we have Maya's exchanging the contacts. I did like this because this was very, very subtle, but I caught it too. The idea at some point, Yuta's reaction to Saki asking about him getting close to a girl changes. Any other time, whenever she's like, "Oh, so you're hanging out with Shiori, your senpai at work, right?" "Yeah, I am." He's always very neutral about it. Like, what would it bother? Like, who cares? But here suddenly, he's on the defensive when Saki asks about Maya. He doesn't want there to be a misunderstanding because suddenly he doesn't want Saki to think that he's getting with Maya because now he likes Saki. So it's really cool that that's kind of there and you can kind of pick up on it. Here it is. Here's the big moment. This kind of blew my mind. When I read this, I was like, no way. No way. Why did Saki feel the need to say, "I felt like I had to say this now"? While the anime doesn't explicitly say it, although you can read between the lines, Saki is acutely aware of Yuta's growing feelings for her. What? No, I did not read between no lines. I did not see this. Saki knew that Yuta was falling for her, and she chose to do this? Because that's the hurt there, is because it's like suddenly Yuta is about ready to return the feelings that Saki has. Saki likes him, but he's not going to return that. And suddenly he's going to now return it, and she goes, "No, brother, the shutdown, the barrier has been placed up. She just called me brother. I cannot go past this barrier anymore." It's not based on logic, but feeling. She's not entirely sure, and she might be overthinking it, but she senses a change in the way that Yuta looks at her and feels about her. And again, that could be from that whole conversation a minute ago. Suddenly now he's like, "Oh, well, no, me and Maya, that's not a thing." But I like that it's showing that she might be overthinking it, that she has a fear there that she might be wrong. And that could be definitely a reason for wanting to throw up that barrier. I might be wrong. I don't want to get my hopes up. I got to shut this down now. I feel like he might be liking me, but I have to shut this down because I might be wrong. And that's going to hurt. Therefore, she feels the need to draw the line, leading to her statement, "I feel like I had to say this now." Does this emotional progression seem strange? Some people might find it odd. After all, Saki has been jealous over Yuta and clearly been attracted to him. If she thinks that it might be mutual, why didn't she just confess and start dating? But it's not that simple. This is related to Saki and Yuta's views on romantic relationships. I felt that in the original novel, this point wasn't always conveyed clearly, and I can only lament my own lack of skill. It seems some readers interpret the reason why Yuta and Saki suppress their romantic feelings are simply being due to ethical reasons of them being siblings. Let me elaborate on this a little more. Interesting that the novel readers get that, because I never got that impression. Because it always seems like Yuta isn't saying, "No, we're brother and sister." Saki isn't saying, "No, we're brother and sister." Even the mother seems open to it. I think the father's made a comment here or there. It doesn't seem like anybody's screaming, but they're siblings. And I think that's mainly because Yuta and Saki are at that age now where they're about to leave home. They can leave home at any moment. They could probably get married right now. Depending on where they live, I think they could probably get married right now. They are essentially budding adults. They can make their own decisions. Now, it would be different if they did become step siblings way back here when they're like 5 years old. Then that probably creates that question mark. But it's just simply right now, they're just roommates. It's like out of nowhere, they're just about ready to leave the nest, and they just suddenly become roommates. It doesn't seem that much of a taboo here. Well, it's true that being siblings is a factor. It's not the sole reason hindering their romance. It's their individual view on love that are preventing them from pursuing a romantic relationship. If only the problem were the taboo of a romantic relationship between siblings, it could be easily resolved by thinking, it doesn't matter because we're just step siblings. Or our parents would accept it, so we could date. I like that idea of like, it's not that simple. And if it was that simple, this would be a really easy story. And again, that goes back to what I was saying at the very beginning of this video. I like that idea of like my thoughts on this whole thing just being, that rug just being pulled out. For both of them right now, a romantic relationship means a relationship that will inevitably break. I caught that. That's their break. That's their issue. With Yuta especially, love is fickle. It's fragile. And Saki's the same way. They've both experienced parents showing them that love is fragile, that you can't rely on it. Influenced by their parents' troubled relationship, both Yuta and Saki have come to expect nothing from romantic relationships and view them with a cold eye. Moreover, they believe that the romantic relationship breaks, it will be irreparably damaged, and they will never be able to return to being a family. And that's sort of the same concept you get from friends becoming romantically interested in each other. There's always that element in storytelling and just people in general. I mean, it's not really a story thing. It's just real life people. When you're friends with somebody and then you're like, what if we can go out? But then you're afraid of doing that because then you'll never go back to being friends. And the problem with that is that they have to go home together no matter what. Whereas friends, yeah, you might just not be friends anymore and you just might not hang out anymore. Both Yuta and Saki believe that Taichi and Akiko will finally be able to spend happy times together and want to be happy as a family with their children. That was the big gut punch at the very end of this episode, was that idea of Taichi and Akiko. They're happy. It was Saki. My mom's finally happy. I want her to be happy. I gotta shut up and stand to the side. I don't want to ruin this. However, if Yuta and Saki were to fall in love and then break up, they fear that happy space will be destroyed. Now let's recall Saki's actions in episode 3. When she tried to make a sexual advance towards Yuta. She didn't actually have romantic feelings for him. It wasn't because she liked him. On the contrary, it could have been said that she was trying to establish a functional relationship that was detached from her emotions. A functional relationship is less likely to develop fatal cracks. Very interesting, because that was definitely a question mark that I have for that. I'm going to have to go check out their commentary on that episode. I think that would be very interesting. If a romantic relationship is deeply connected and is destined to develop fatal cracks, a functioning relationship, on the other hand, is shallowly connected and can be maintained as long as both parties benefit, give and take, or win-win, even if it leaves small cracks. That's why the act was a risky attempt for Saki, and a line that Yuta was unwilling to cross. Very interesting, very interesting. Saki's haircut. Thanks to the original anime scene, Saki's decision to cut her hair has been given multiple layers of meaning. I like this. There's actually some of these that are actually very interesting. The scene where she's been shown as a childhood photo of herself eating a beef stew on the smartphone is original in the anime. However, thanks to this scene, we see a picture of Saki as a child, emphasizing her sisterly image. Her hairstyle in the photo is similar to her current hairstyle, which I think makes Yuta strongly aware of her as his sister. So that's one. By overlapping the image of young Saki's smartphone with the present Saki, the anime visually emphasized the idea of being a sister to the viewers. It's a powerful expression unique to animation. As you might expect, at the beginning, Saki assumed that Yuta preferred women with long hair. So yes, this is basically her trying to get rid of that attraction. Saki believes that cutting her hair will help cut ties with lingering feelings or desires to be liked by Yuta. Oof. Now let's recall Saki from this first 2 episodes. She was so strict about herself that she couldn't even consider the possibility of Yuta wearing women's underwear. She has always rejected stereotypes, like masculinity and femininity. However, even here she feels a contradiction in her own emotions. Although she rationally believes the person's masculinity or femininity cannot be defined by the length of their hair, she finds herself swayed by this idea. This shows the human tendency to waver between what we rationally believe and what we actually do. That's a very interesting thing there. I'm not sure if I follow that mindset, but I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense. This is what the author's saying, but I'm not really sure I follow. I'm home brother. This was a gut punch too. This scene was a gut punch too. Here she clearly calls Yuta brother in front of the family. It's a clear demarcation. However, that doesn't mean their relationship has completely reverted. It's true that both of them have suppressed their true feelings before, but this suppression is different. It's not a suppression where she avoids relying on Yuta and keeps her distance, but rather a suppression based on a decision to rely on Yuta and maintain a sisterly distance. This change is evidence in Saki's line, "I'm home brother," and it's also apparent in Yuki's performance. Compared to previous Saki, her voice sounded clearly brighter, as if emphasizing the trust that she has in him as a family member or a closeness they developed as siblings. Very, very true. It's much more bubbly. It's more fun. All that stuff is in there. The voice and everything. And yes, this is in front of the parents. And that's one of those sad realities that they barely have time with the parents. And that's something that is technically what is also lost in their relationship over time, is the parents are never there. They're always working. And thus they're always home alone together. Again, they're grown. They have those feelings that are going to blossom. And this is almost like, again, a declaration in front of the parents, brother. And again, very bubbly. But that's a huge thing right there, because she's suddenly accepting him as a brother. Again, this is why this episode is so freaking good. It's not just her shutting down her feelings for him. It's also her opening up her feelings to him, because now they're siblings and she wants to be his sister. Looking at the diary entries leading to this point, you can see how Saki's feelings have changed, what she has accepted, what she has given up on, and what she's become. The meaning of the still diary. This was crazy. This was one of the other reasons why I want to make this video. When I read this, I was like, what? What? They actually made a YouTube video talking about Saki keeping a diary. And in that video, he revealed that one of the reasons why she started keeping a diary was a evidence in case the new family members turned out to be terrible people. The whole reason Saki this entire time has been keeping a diary was in case Yuta started doing terrible things or Taichi started doing terrible things. She was preparing herself. And again, that makes sense because what did she just come from? Her mom was destroyed by her father. They were out on their own. They were struggling to get by. And now suddenly her mom is with somebody else and they're going to get together. There's probably a side of it, her not trusting Taichi. That Taichi is going to do something horrible to her mother. And yeah, what if Yuta is a bad guy? She said that initially. She was kind of distant when they first met. And she goes, okay, so I realized that you're kind of all right. That's when she confesses to him that we don't want to rely on each other. That's funny, too funny. Considering the roots of the diary, Saki's act of discarding or sealing the diary is both a way to avoid risk of Yuta or her family reading it by accident and proof that she has fully come to trust her new family. That's huge! Like that whole segment of her chucking the key or whatever, trying to get rid of the key. She keeps trying to get rid of that damn key. I don't know if she threw it in the river. It looked like she didn't. I don't know if she's trying to throw it in the ocean. It doesn't look like she did. She just threw it inside of the fish tank. Now, granted, throwing in the ocean, throwing in the fish tank, symbolically, I guess, going to be the same thing there. But it's her accepting her family. That entire whole segment, I'm just thinking to myself, oh, it's her trying to lock away her feelings. I can't have you to find this. It's also her coming to fully trust her family. So now that moment where she comes in there with her haircut and she's like, oh yeah, hi mom, hi dad, hi brother. It's like no longer does she suspect him. No longer is she putting up those barriers. She's fully embracing that family. It's two symbolisms there. I'm no longer keeping track of them to make sure they're not bad people, but now I'm accepting them. This simultaneous act of sealing her romantic feelings and completing her trust in her family shows that she accepted her role as a stepsister is not solely about misfortune. There's also a sense of joy in having a complete family, as well as sadness in sealing her romantic feelings. It's like choosing one of two happinesses. Considering this, I realized that it is indeed correct to depict this scene with a brighter tone. I, the original author, actually learned from the TV anime. It's so good. It's so crazy. It's so crazy good. I love this. Like I said before, I love this whole breakdown. It's such a cool insight. Like, again, that whole idea of Saki realizing that Yuta might have feelings for her and wanting to shut that down. Shut it down now. I might be wrong. Shut it down now. And yes, the whole thing with the diary, accepting the family, seeing Saki as a sister, Saki not wanting to destroy that family, them both not wanting to destroy that family. All that stuff, there's some hints here and there, but to kind of get it put into words right there, it kind of sucks because it's almost like that whole skip content concept about stuff where it's like the story is so freaking good, but the anime doesn't quite get everything right. But I think in culmination, these two things together just completely sold me on this series and kind of answered those suspicions I kind of had. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed running through of this commentary from the author. Really good stuff there. The moment I read it, I was like, I got to make a video on it. So I hope you guys enjoy this as always. If you did, hit that like button down below, comment, let me think of this whole commentary and your thoughts on the show itself. Additionally, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe before you leave. If you like this content, you want to support the channel more, I have links in the description below. Greatly appreciate what it does. Until next time, y'all take care.